Harley Quinn was created by the genius that is Bruce Timm. Now, Harley and the Joker were inspired by that partnership, that team up in DC Comics, and Batman the Animated Series was basically, kind of inspired by Bonnie and Clyde, and it was a great dynamic. But then the woke extremists came in, and imagine this scenario where the Joker had manipulated Harley Quinn into becoming the evil vixen, multiple murderer. It was the Joker's fault. It was all the Joker's fault. He manipulated Harley Quinn to become Harley Quinn. Let's not forget that Harley Quinn started as Harley Quinzel, right? A criminal psychologist, right? So that means she must have been very smart and very well educated, okay? So you do not manipulate a criminal psychologist to become Harley Quinn. It's clear that Harley Quinzel was a sandwich short of a picnic from the very beginning. She loves being with the Joker. She loves being a murderess. She loves the Joker, and it's a great dynamic. It's an interesting dynamic, and they ruined it. They took it to pieces because they listened to Twitter and other kind of places, right? They listened to the woke extremists. They ruined the great character dynamic, blamed the Joker for everything, absolved Harley Quinn of all her guilt, right, and said it's not my fault, because this is what they do now. And then we've seen what's happened to Harley in the comics, in the Harley Quinn animated series, which I like, but is made by the woke extremists as well. We already know that. So in that animated series, in comics now, she's having a relationship with Poison Ivy. Make it make sense, right? So she hates the Joker now. They're nothing to do with each other anymore. And, Poison Ivy and Harley Quinn are this power couple. Now, this is what happens when you allow these insane maniacs to rewrite fictional history. You had something that worked with Harley and the Joker, and they ruined it. But no, the Joker didn't manipulate Harley Quinn to become Harley Quinn. Harley Quinn was a lunatic. She's killed people, right? And you can't absolve her of those crimes, right? Then we look at the DCEU. I really liked Margot's performance as Harley in the first Suicide Squad movie. Whoever was responsible for it, whether it's David Ayer's movie or not David Ayer's movie. She's brilliant in that movie, and you can see what she's all about. And there's a very interesting relationship between Harley and the Joker. And the idea of that ending when the Joker breaks her out is so you can have a Gotham City Sirens movie, a Harley and a Joker movie. They were planning this with David Ayer. Zack Snyder was planning all of this. David had a big plan for those two characters. And of course, they ruined it. So what did we see in Birds of Prey? A movie run and led by third wave feminist Margot Robbie. Let's make that clear. If you don't like Birds of Prey, it has nothing to do with director Cathy Yan, who was only employed for her cultural background and her gender. Let me ask you that question. Is it as racist to bring on someone for being a female and for their cultural background as it is for only, having straight white male directors? Isn't it the same thing? Isn't it just as bigoted? I'm asking you that question. Comments down below. That film decided to basically hate on men and accuse men for taking credit for women's work and make women the victims and men the aggressors. How did that fucking film do for you, DC? WB? You let a third wave feminist maniac lead the narrative of that movie, and she ruined it. But she learned her lesson, because for Barbie, she actually brought in an auteur to make that movie, and she actually got away with her extremist, horrible, negative, extremist narrative. So Barbie does exactly the same thing as Birds of Prey does, but they actually had a smart director. and she did bring on a female director for being a female, but it worked out for them. Congratulations, Margot. You did it. I hope you're pleased with yourself. That's if they're not lying about the huge box office that they actually got. So, we can, well, the same people can agree that DC Comics, the DCEU, DC Animation, everyone have ruined Harley Quinn. She was a great, interesting, multi-layered character. The worst sinner, of course, was James Gunn in his Suicide Squad movie. A movie I adore. I think James Gunn is a really good writer-director, as you all know, but I'm going to criticise him when I want to, when I don't like something he does. So because he listened to third-wave feminist Margot Robbie, they did this whole sequence in his Suicide Squad movie where she shags this evil dictator, but then she hears him say, oh, you know, I'm going to kill a bunch of kids if I don't get what I want. So Harley kills him because Harley all of a sudden has a conscience. All of a sudden she's an anti-hero. But that's not even the worst bit of the movie. It's when she starts killing people and all she can see is bright colours. In other words, let's absolve the female gal boss of killing people because she sees bright colours, she doesn't see blood. She doesn't really know what the damage that she's causing, right? It's all bright and nice, right, James? This is what the woke left are all about. They're a bunch of extremists and everything they do is one-sided and it takes absence from reality. So they've ruined her out of ideology. It's interesting, isn't it? But this video is called How Todd Phillips Can Fix Harley Quinn. Why is that? How is that? Well, it's very, very interesting because when we all saw Margot Robbie's brilliant performance in the first Suicide Squad movie as Harley Quinn, we actually thought she was the reason that that movie succeeded, but we were wrong because it was actually the Joker that made that movie successful. No, the critics hated it, but it made a lot of money. Every movie with the Joker in it is very, very successful. Think about it, right? Batman 89, The Dark Knight, the first Suicide Squad movie made a bunch of money. Right, the Joker's involved in all these movies. Joker, 2019's The Joker, directed by Todd Phillips, starring Joaquin Phoenix. All successful because the Joker is that popular. So it wasn't Harley, but I think the Harley and the Joker element really excited people. People love that Bonnie and Clyde element. And they've, you know, the woke left have taken that to pieces because it hurts their narrative and ideology. And anything that hurts and offends their ideology has to be taken down. So, how can Todd Phillips' Joker Folia do save Harley Quinn? It's very, very interesting. We already know from Todd Phillips that, in fact, this Harley Quinn isn't a criminal psychiatrist. I think I understand why Todd has done this. I think if you're improving from canon, you can change canon. I think if you're changing canon for the sake of it and it's crap, that's when I get annoyed. But this sounds like a good idea. Basically, I believe that Todd Phillips is going to give us a Harley Quinn that is a killer, that is dangerous, that does become obsessed with the Joker and the Joker becomes obsessed with. I think you're going to see a proper love story. I think this is the proper origin story of Harley and the Joker falling in love and doing some dangerous shit. Now, whether one kills the other in the end, I don't know. I mean, it could be a get out for Joaquin Phoenix if he gets killed off by the end of this movie. Something I wouldn't want to see, but it'll be interesting because there's further adventures to have. I don't think either of these characters will be killed off because I think there's a potential here. This is what Todd Phillips was planning, to do different villain, you know, Black Label, DC Black Label, you know, origin stories for these rogues galleries, for maybe even the heroes sometimes, or other smaller characters. This was Todd's plan from the very beginning. And Warner Brothers were resistant to even do the Joker because they're insane. Walter Hamada was worried, I think because of what, you know, the polarization of the Snyderverse. I kind of get why Hamada may have been resistant. But when you've got Todd Phillips saying, look, I've got Joaquin Phoenix here, you say, yeah, mate, go for it. Joaquin Phoenix playing the fucking Joker, that's all you'd need to tell me. But maybe earlier on in the conversations, before Joaquin came into the conversations, maybe that's why Hamada was a bit nervous. Anyway, so we know that Todd Phillips is a genius. He's a genius for the Hangover trilogy, and he's a genius for Joker. 4 brilliant movies. Yes, he's got a little corner at DC, and if you're wondering if James Gunn has any say-so over what he does, I think he's got as little say-so of what happens with Joker or Joker 2 or the Batman 2. I don't think he's got anything to do with what Matt Reeves does or what Todd Phillips does. Now, James months ago made it clear when he's called, the co-CEO of DC Studios, that means the Joker universe and the Batman universe from Matt Reeves. But it's not. Now, he's mentioned Matt Reeves before and said basically, because there was rumours that Matt Reeves, Robert Pattinson's Batman was going to join the DCU, and James Gunn had to come out, and Matt Reeves was going, yeah, well done, James, blah, 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 and, they were kissing each other's backsides, as they do publicly. I don't think that's the relationship in reality, but I think that Matt Reeves is stuck in his little bat cave all the time, thinking of new ways to make new Batman content. So I don't think he gets involved with many people outside of his little world, which is brilliant. I love Matt Reeves. But yeah, James Gunn is in charge of his little DC universe, his, cinematic universe, his streaming gaming universe. That's what James Gunn is in charge of. But he's never, interestingly, mentioned Todd Phillips' name once. He's never actually mentioned James Wan's name either. That's interesting, but they have had a little bit of a fallout and strong wording. And I think he's going to leave Aquaman alone now. That's why he's not even mentioning Aquaman or promote it. He hasn't promoted the trailer or anything. Todd Phillips has made his Joker sequel. No one has interfered. This is Todd Phillips' movie. What kind of Harley Quinn will Lady Gaga play? I still can't believe the words Lady Gaga and Harley Quinn are in the same sentence, and it really, really does excite me. Because as well as being one of the best singers in the world, yes, much better and superior than Taylor Swift, we can argue that another time, but she's also a fine actor. And I think this is going to be a very, very interesting Harley Quinn, and I think we're really going to delve into the psychology of the character. This is going to be a true blue Harley Quinn. She's going to kill. She's going to have brutality. She's not going to be the anti-hero that James Gunn and Margot Robbie want you to see. You see, I've been of the mind ever since Birds of Prey tanked, and even what Margot was saying during the marketing of James Gunn's The Suicide Squad, that they were going to give Harley a bit of a rest, and that was interesting. At the time, of course, that was before James Gunn became co-CEO of DC Studios. So it's very, very interesting. But I think you really are going to have an opportunity here with Todd Phillips and this Joker sequel to really fix Harley Quinn and keep her as the villain. The psychotic woman that she was always meant to be. Because she's not a feminist. She's not an anti-hero. And she's obsessed with the Joker. It's a fucked up relationship. But to try and rewrite history and say it was all the Joker's fault and poor little Harley Quinzel could have still been a criminal psychologist now if not for the Joker. No. She knew exactly what she was doing. She was there while the Joker was killing, and she was fucking loving it. And she was killing people too. They were a team. They were a couple of gangsters. They loved it. She is an evil, sadistic, mentally fucked up character. That is who Harley Quinn is. She's not some kind of... She didn't wake up one morning and go, actually, oh, daddy, sorry, I'm a lesbian now and I've got the urge, to date Poison Ivy. No. She is what she is. She's dangerous. She's sadistic. She's a killer. And if you can't handle that, and if you're a fan of the new age, history rewriting Harley Quinn, that's up to you. But that isn't the truth. And I believe that Todd Phillips is going to go in the opposite direction of it, which makes me really, really happy. Because, look, it's an interesting situation because, we're in a kind of a situation where most people in Hollywood and in comics think the same way, which is in an extremist way, where all women and minorities are innocent, heroes and straight white males are the problem. Toxic masculinity is the only problem. Not to me, to them. But we've got someone like Todd Phillips whose ideology isn't like that. And they can't control him because you've got Zaslav who thinks that Phillips walks on water. I believe Phillips walks on water as well. Because of the Hangover trilogy, because of Joker, I think the man's a genius. A genius. So they're leaving him alone. They won't touch him. So he's been allowed to make the Joker sequel that he always wanted to make. And to have Joaquin Phoenix and Lady Gaga involved on in this project with Todd, I think it's going to be very interesting. And no, this is going to be a very, very different Harley Quinn. And I believe it's the iconic Harley Quinn. Yeah, they'll change canon and do things a little bit different, but they ain't going to do anything to please the woke mob. She's going to be a dangerous woman. It's okay to represent dangerous villainesses, right? It's okay to say some women do bad things. And this is where we are today. When I was growing up, I saw some very strong women on my TV screen and on the big screen. You know, Glenn Close, Fatal Attraction, Joan Collins as Alexis in Dynasty. You know, we had Abby Ewing in Knots Landing. We had lots of women who were inherently bad, but they were also highly entertaining. And we had lots of men who were bad because there was no ideology going on. And if there was any messaging or commentary in our entertainment, it wasn't done with a sledgehammer. That's the difference. Falling Down is about toxic masculinity, the film starring Michael Douglas. But as a kid, as a teenager, I didn't know that. It's only recently I realised that. But I don't care. Because it wasn't bashed over my brain. It can be about whatever you want it to be, but at the end of the day, it's your own perception of a movie, isn't it? We will have different perceptions of movies, otherwise we'd either hate them all or love them all, right? There would be no discourse. And where would we be without constructive, at the very least, discourse? Which I think is very important when we talk about anything, especially art and entertainment. So I think this is going to be a very polarizing movie for woke Hollywood, for the woke access and, access media who talk about entertainment. I think it's going to be very, very polarizing. I think they're going to do what they did with the first movie. But here's the funny thing about what they did to the first movie. They all got offended because apparently the Joker, Arthur Fleck, is an incel and Todd Phillips was making excuses for his actions. Of course, Todd wasn't. He was just telling a bloody story. But they create something else because everything offends them about straight white males. Because we can't talk about straight white males being mentally ill because that's like making excuses. But they can make all the excuses they want for minorities and women, right? They always excuse women for their bad behavior and minorities. I don't have anything against women or minorities. I'm talking about what the woke left do, how they see minorities. They believe not one minority has ever committed a crime. They believe not one woman has ever cheated on their partner or done anything wrong. That's my point. I don't have an issue with anyone. I love everyone. Believe you me. But I'm just making the point about how they see, the distorted way they look at the world. And it's really bad. And they're running every industry now as well as the entertainment industry. So it's absolutely frightening because when you've got an extremist movement who hate one group of people, whoever that extremist movement is running the world, it's a bit of the problem. It's like we're going back to Nazi Germany in a way. I don't want to get into that conversation, but anyway. So I think we're going to see a very controversial movie. It's going to upset all the right people because this is going to be a right badass Harley Quinn. It wouldn't surprise me if you see her killing people, if you don't see blood all over her, and her rubbing blood over her face and stuff and putting the Joker's name on her forehead and things like that. It's going to be very, very fucked up. But for me personally, this is exactly what Harley needs. And what's beautiful here, nobody can stop Todd Phillips from making this film. I think that's very, very, very important to say that he has total power over his own project and James Gunn hasn't got the remit to touch what he's doing. The reason they created DC Elseworlds because they needed to put these movies that have nothing to do with the previous DCEU regime somewhere. And maybe they'll make more of those films, those kind of Elseworld films. Maybe they won't. But at the end of the day, Joker 2 is going to exist. The Penguin series is going to exist. The Arkham Asylum Max streaming show is going to exist. So we've got a lot to look forward to. If you're not looking forward to James Gunn's DC Universe, which I am, but I would say I'm looking forward to the DC Elseworld stuff a lot more. But of course, how can I not be looking forward to a Superman film when I'm a big Superman fan? At the end of the day, it is what it is, right? We just have to wait to consume what James Gunn's doing before we judge it. But yes, I think, Joker Folie à Deux is going to be a big, big movie. Don't be surprised if you see a little teaser this month. It's about a year away, so Todd Phillips may want you to see a little snippet of his movie a year in advance. Maybe, maybe not. It's a little rumour I've been hearing for ages. But of course, like all rumours and all sources, sometimes they're mistaken, and that's okay. So take what I'm saying to you with a pinch of salt. And so, yeah, I think what Bruce Timm came up with Harley Quinn was always very, very interesting. An educated working class gal who became a criminal psychologist, right? And all of a sudden, creates this entity called Harley Quinn. It's very, very interesting. It's very intelligent, and there's a lot to it. Even in the animated series, there's a lot of depth to that character. But the extremists decided to absolve Harley of all her sins because she's a woman. And they decided to get her as far away from the Joker as possible and put her with Poison Ivy. The relationship with Poison Ivy isn't interesting because it isn't a broken relationship. That's something else the woke left don't like. By the way, I'm not right-wing. I'm not a Trump supporter. Let's make that abundantly clear. I'm a central leftist. I'm not a passionate politician. I couldn't give a shit. I'm just telling you how I was raised and where I stand. I'm no extremist. I don't like extremists on either side. Are we clear? So, they created a situation where, as I say, the woke left don't like seeing relationships, dangerous relationships, relationships that are not perfect, problematic relationships. That's what they call them, problematic. But life is problematic. Life isn't clean, it isn't neat, and it isn't tidy at the end of the day. And I'd much rather see Harley and the Joker together in a fucked up relationship than Harley and Poison Ivy in a perfect relationship. It's boring, it doesn't work, it's not entertainment. And that's what we're looking for. We're looking for creatives to have something interesting to say about the world we live in. And Harley and the Joker, that relationship actually is more typical than you think. No, I'm not talking about people, psychotic killers being in relationships, but there are psychotic killers like Harley and the Joker out there in relationship doing terrible, unthinkable things. But there's also people in problematic relationships, violent relationships, aggressive relationships. That's a lot of the relationships that exist in the world today. They may look happy in a perfect couple with 3 or 4 or 5 kids, but that's the reality of the world, right? So why try and, it's like making a new Bambi live action movie and saying, well, we're going to protect kids from the hunter killing the deer. But that's a reality. If you basically put your hands in your kids' eyes and say, don't look, don't look, don't look, right? When they're adults and they see these things anyway, do you think they're going to thank you for hiding it from them? No, they won't. No child has ever thanked the parent for basically trying to hide the realities of the world from them. But when they're kids, you want them to be kids. That's why it's great that they believe in Santa and the Easter Bunny and the Tooth Fairy for a little while. And we shouldn't, take away those things because they're part of the magic of life. I love believing in those things for a short time. And it didn't fuck me up because I found out they weren't real. I just had a little giggle. I kind of knew he wasn't real, but I like believing. Believe you me, if I had amnesia if I had 45-year-old amnesia now, right, or 47 or 48-year-old amnesia, and as a 50-year-old geezer, I started to think, oh my God, Santa Claus is real. I'd like that. Now, you can call the men in white coats if you like, but isn't it better wouldn't it be better if we lived in a more innocent world? But we don't. The reality of the world we live in is Harley and the Joker. And in some context, most relationships are like that. But the woke left don't like that relationship and blame the Joker for everything. Well, believe you me, Todd Phillips is really going to trigger these people. But why trigger them? Well, this is what he did on purpose in the first film. They literally marketed the film for him. They were telling everyone if they went to the cinema, they could be shot dead. What did people do? Go anywhere. When you tell people not to do something, it's like when you tell a child, don't go to the sweet cupboard. What does a child do? Go to the sweet cupboard, right? So what happened in the end? They were telling people not to go, so more people went. The movie made over $1 billion, right? It's very rare for an R-rated movie to make that type of money. I know the first Deadpool did really, really well. But ultimately, R-rated movies don't make that type of money. Although, you know, when you look at Oppenheimer, which is a very populist movie, made by one of the most popular directors out there, not even that made $1 billion. It's nearly there. It's an impressive box office, don't get me wrong, for Oppenheimer, but not even that movie could get there. So it's proof that the controversy that Todd Phillips started purposely to wind up the right people worked. And he's going to do it with the sequel as well. They're going to be so triggered the way he represents Harley Quinn. Well, I'm sorry to disappoint you, extremists, but this is the reality of life. Because Harley Quinn isn't the things that you've been told she is. She's a problematic person. She's psychotic. She's mentally ill-adjusted. That's the fact. That's how she was created. You can't keep on rewriting history. If you want a better female, a better behaved female than Harley Quinn, create a new female character, but leave our existing characters alone. So, you know, I didn't know when Margot Robbie first played Harley that she was a third-wave feminist. I was celebrating her. I didn't realise what a nut job Margot Robbie was. But, look, she's a very talented lady. I think mostly she's a nice lady as well. She doesn't try and push her narrative too much publicly. She hides a bit from what she really thinks. She's not like the others. I mean, I saw the interviews and the marketing for Barbie, and you had the director really going for it and Margot trying to calm it down, which is interesting. But she believes everything that the rest of them believe. But for some reason, she doesn't have the gumption or she's more intelligent. And she knows the movie's going to bomb if you keep on going on about toxic masculinity in your marketing. But it's all over Birds of Prey, and it's all over the Barbie movie. We know exactly what you think, Margot. You ran and led Birds of Prey. Kathy Yan. You hid behind Kathy Yan and allowed her to take the blame for your movie and your ideas. You picked the director in Kathy Yan who couldn't even direct action, because you only picked her because of her cultural background and her gender. Because this is how you people think. It's why the director of The Eternals was chosen. Because this is where we are today. It's a new type of racism, isn't it really, and bigotry? Think about it very, very carefully. So, yes, they're going to be believe you me, I've heard a lot of stuff about Joker Folia do. Lots of stuff, right? I know people. And yeah, it's going to be a very big movie. It's going to be a very interesting movie. I think we are talking another Best Picture nomination. I think Lady Gaga could even be nominated for an Oscar for this movie. I'm not sure if Joaquin gets another nod. I think it's another excellent performance from what I'm hearing on the grapevine. But I think definitely Lady Gaga is going to get a lot of praise from the same people who watch film and talk about film, and from the same pundits. That's what I'm hearing. Very strong performance from Lady Gaga. So it's going to be a bit of a shocking movie, as you would expect. I think it's R-rated, I'm not sure. The first one certainly was. And the musical element, there are musical numbers in this movie, but it isn't a total musical. Basically, people love to label things today. I don't think you can pigeonhole this film into being a musical or a non-musical. Just enjoy it. It's going to be a very wacky, different type of movie. But I believe It finally does justice to the character of Harley Quinn.